All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're going to unpack a question that might just flip your whole understanding of money on its head. We're getting into a really mind-bending legal argument, all based on a fascinating paper that suggests when you get a loan, you're not just a borrower, you're actually creating the money yourself. And we're not talking about some abstract economic theory here. This is a deep, deep dive into the letter of U.S. law.
So this is the big question, the one that's at the heart of everything we're looking at today. The paper we're analyzing makes a pretty bold claim, that when you sign that loan agreement, you're not just getting money, you're making money. I know, it sounds pretty wild, right? But the entire argument is built on a very careful reading of the law. So let's see how they get there.
To get our heads around this, we've got to follow the legal breadcrumbs the paper lays out. We're going to start with the absolute foundation, the Constitution. Then we'll jump to some key laws from Congress, see what the Supreme Court has had to say about it, and then finally, we'll put all the pieces together into what the paper has dubbed the any notes doctrine. Sound good? Let's get started.
First things first, we have to figure out who's even in charge here, right? Who actually has the authority to say what is and isn't money? Well, according to this paper, the answer is found in one place, the U.S. Constitution.
The whole argument really kicks off with Article 1, Section 8, and it's about as clear as it gets. Congress, and only Congress, has the power to coin money and decide what it's worth. This is the bedrock. Everything else is built on this single powerful idea.
And it's not just some old text that nobody pays attention to. The Supreme Court has backed this up again and again, saying Congress has plenary power. Now, plenary is just a legal term for total and absolute. Basically, when it comes to defining money, Congress is the only game in town. Period.
Okay, so we've established Congress has this absolute power. The next logical question is, how have they used it? The paper zeroes in on a really critical moment in history, 1933, smack in the middle of the Great Depression.
So in 1933, Congress passed a law officially defining legal tender. Now, pay close attention to the exact wording here, because it's everything. It says, all coins and currencies of the United States, including Federal Reserve notes, are legal tender.
And according to the paper's analysis, the key to this entire puzzle is one tiny word, including. They argue this word wasn't just thrown in there by accident. Legally, it's a huge deal, because it's what's known as non-exclusionary. This creates what legal pros call an inclusive statutory class. It sounds fancy, but the idea is super simple. Think of it this way. If I tell you my favorite foods include pizza and tacos, that doesn't mean those are the only foods I like, right? It just means I'm giving you some examples. The paper argues Congress did the same thing. They gave examples of legal tender, but they never said that was the final, complete list. And that little detail opens up a very big door.
So, if the category of money is still open, what else could possibly fit in there? This brings us to the absolute core, the real engine of this paper's argument. It points to a law that it says creates a direct, one-to-one link between promissory notes and the creation of new money.
Okay, this is the statute right here. It's a bit of a mouthful, but the key part is this. When any notes get deposited, a Federal Reserve Bank is entitled to get brand new currency in return, at par. And at par just means for the exact same face value, dollar for dollar.
So this is the mechanism the paper lays out. A promissory note goes in as collateral, and an equal amount of new U.S. currency comes out. The argument is that this isn't a loan in the traditional sense. It's a direct exchange. It's an asset swap.
And this exchange is valued at 100%. The congressional record from the time actually says this new currency is supposed to be worth 100 cents on the dollar. Why? Because it's fully secured by the value of those notes that were deposited.
And if you want to get a sense of just how big this was meant to be, check out this quote from the congressional record. It says, "This new money will represent a mortgage on all the homes and other property of all the people in the nation." Wow. I mean, that's a pretty heavy statement about the value and security behind these notes.
But hold on, when the law says any notes, what does it really mean by a note? This is a crucial question. And the paper argues that to get the answer, you've got to look at how the Supreme Court has defined the term over the decades.
So the paper pulls from a whole series of Supreme Court cases to make its point. And what it finds is that the court has consistently talked about promissory notes as much more than a simple IOU. They've been called commercial securities and even property that you can buy, sell, or pledge. And that distinction is everything. Because if a note is legally considered a valuable asset, then it can absolutely serve as collateral. Okay, now it's time to connect all the dots.
We've got the Constitution, we've got the 1933 law, we've got the Supreme Court rulings. And all of these pieces come together to form what this paper calls the any notes doctrine.
So what is it? Put simply, the any notes doctrine is the paper's name for this whole idea, this legal framework where promissory notes aren't just debt, they are securities. And these securities can be deposited to back the creation of new currency, dollar for dollar.
Let's just walk through the logic one more time, nice and simple. Step 1, the law and the Supreme Court define notes as securities. Step 2, these securities can be used as collateral to issue new money. Step 3, that exchange has to happen at a one-to-one value. The logical conclusion, according to this paper, the note itself is the asset that creates new money.
And this right here is what the paper presents as its smoking gun. In the actual legislative record, Congress itself calls these notes securities and says new currency can be issued upon them. The argument here is that this isn't some fancy interpretation. It's the exact explicit language the lawmakers themselves used.
So, let's just pause here for a second. Let's assume this entire legal argument holds up. What does it actually mean for us? What are the real-world implications for how we think about money and, debt?
The paper's final conclusion is, well, it's a bombshell. It says that a promissory note isn't just you promising to pay back a loan. It's you creating a valuable security that by law acts as the direct collateral for issuing brand new legal tender.
And that brings us right back to our very first question. If your signature on a loan document creates the actual asset that backs new money, then what does that really say about the nature of debt itself? Is it really a loan at all, or is it something else entirely? This paper presents a fundamental legal challenge to the way we all think about money. It definitely leaves you with a lot to chew on.